Okay, so traditionally, I've often begun. Oh, did I end that? Oh, shit, hold on. I'm gonna just close it. Oh no, it is recording still. Good. Okay. Um, Traditionally, I've begun these sessions by asking people, how many of my typing session videos have you watched before?
I've probably watched between 20 and 30 of them.
Okay, so you're pretty familiar with my approach. All right.
Yes, unless it's changed.
All right, so let me try starting off with some TE questions. So can you break the task of washing the windows down into the ideal number of steps to break that task into?
Washing the windows. Ideal number of steps. Spray it down with your cleaner. Squeegee it. Dry it off.
So how many is the ideal number of steps?
Well, I think you can bring it down to 2 actually.
All
Just
right.
spray and then dry. You don't have to do the squeegee.
Spray and wipe. Okay. Do you think fewer number of steps is preferable necessarily?
Depends on the window. I'm looking at my window right now, and I know I'd have to dust it first, so that I don't have to then rewash it and then get all the dust off of it. However, if you're like in an office building, for instance, just like a big glass pane, I mean, best bet would just be spray, then squeegee, then wipe, just so you don't have to worry about re-wiping it because then you have streaks everywhere. So 3
Okay.
in an office building, a typical window would be 2. Mine would probably be 4.
Okay. Can you tell me what kind of thing, if it breaks, you'll just buy a new one? What kind of thing, if it breaks, you'll fix it? And what kind of thing, if it breaks, you'll say, I'm not getting that kind of thing anymore?
Ooh. So if it breaks, buy a new one. Like general thing or specific?
It could be specific or a category thing.
Kitchen utensils. If it breaks, I'll just buy a new one. Spatulas, knives, those type of things. Fix it in a break of cars. Um, Cars are too expensive to not fix.
Do you fix
Um,
those yourself or you hire someone to fix them?
Depends. I used to have a Beamer, and I used to do all the repairs on that. And then I bought a new car. The engine blew up, so then I had a shop do it.
Hmm.
And brakes, I'll just never buy that. I mean, it just has to be something I don't need. Mm,
Now, can you name a specific time where you bought a product thinking this is a good product for this set of uses, and then were disappointed in it and decided you didn't need that product at all?
Bought an air fryer, and I literally came out of the box broken, and I realized I don't need an air fryer, so I just have it sitting downstairs. I bought it for like $20, which is really cheap, but I don't need it, and I don't use it, but it's just sitting downstairs.
Buying
I don't.
something that's brand new and then getting it home and discovering it's already broken in the box is frustrating.
Yeah, it was. I got it. I got it in a clearance at Walmart, half off. So I
Mm.
haven't bothered to try to return it. I probably should have, but I didn't. However, yeah, it's very annoying because I buy a lot of used things, and then like I'm like, that's what's wrong with it. But a new thing, I have expectations.
Yeah.
But
Okay, so let me ask you then to articulate an instance when you scold yourself, the kind of behaviors you're most likely to scold yourself for. For example, are you more likely to scold yourself for being late to an appointment, or are you more likely to scold yourself for forgetting your phone or some other object at home when you leave to go to the appointment?
Let's go myself. Probably forgetting the item. I typically have, yeah, I guess forgetting the item if we're just looking at those two things specifically.
Okay. Forgetting
Unlike
an item. What about forgetting an item or being socially awkward?
oh, it's being socially awkward. I mean, I've been socially awkward. I've been socially awkward my entire life, and it's something I try to fix. And then, like when I regress and I don't try to be better, I kind of get upset with myself.
What about social awkwardness or hurting somebody else's feelings?
Hurting somebody's feelings.
Okay. What about hurting somebody's feelings or not having anything new or interesting to say?
Still hurting somebody's feelings. I typically I hurt people's feelings because I have something new to say.
Okay. What makes you more angry at yourself when you perform a task in an inefficient way? For example, get a piece of furniture partway assembled, then realize you missed step 2 and have to deassemble it and start over again. Or being caught being illogical such that somebody points out a clear contradiction in what you're saying and you don't have any answer for it.
Not being illogical.
Okay. And what makes you judge another person more harshly if they demonstrate themselves being inefficient or illogical?
Illogical.
What about if they are illogical or socially awkward?
Illogical. I wouldn't.
What
Most of my
makes you
friends
mad
are
at yourself, illogical or socially awkward?
illogical for sure.
Okay. And what makes you lose respect for somebody else more? Is it that they are that they are too harsh and hurt other people's feelings? Or is it that they are too too hesitant
To
to
what?
establish their own boundaries, too hesitant to establish their own boundaries? So like they let themselves get pushed around. What makes you lose some respect for them more?
The first one.
Okay. And how about flakiness, a failure to follow through on what somebody says they're going to do, or versus like always needing to stop to take a break and get food and rest for 15 minutes and all that stuff?
That's a tough one. Um, because I can see myself doing both of those things. Man, I guess flakiness, just because. Yeah.
Okay. So let me muse about where I want to go here with the questions. All right. So all right. So can you tell me about some public figure that is famous or whatever that you respect a lot and what it is that you respect about him or her? And then we'll do the same for somebody you disrespect.
Somebody I respect. Figure. Um, like figure I respect. Ah, shit. I don't even
The person I respect most is Oprah Winfrey.
what?
Do you respect Oprah Winfrey?
Do I respect her? Like
Yeah.
I have
Like, are you
respect for
really
her.
impressed? Are you super impressed with her?
Am I super impressed with her? I mean, she's done a
Yeah.
lot for sure. Yeah. Um,
Okay.
but I know you're about to ask me if I don't.
All right, do the disrespect question. Somebody you don't respect, some public figure who makes you go, "Ooh, that guy," and why? What it is makes you mad about him or her?
I don't. That's the problem. I don't disrespect anybody. I don't see. I don't see anybody. I mean, yeah, like you have public figures, like Andrew Tate's probably the biggest one that people. I mean, I don't care enough to respect or disrespect people. I don't know if that skirts your question or
Okay.
not.
Well, look, I get that completely. That you're not paying attention to whether or not you respect people, but surely you mentioned Andrew Tate is either somebody who makes you mad or who you agree with. One of those two sides of the thing,
I
right?
think I just said that because it's like very popular to hate him. Um, anybody,
What do people not like about him? What do you not like about him?
I mean, just looking at his views, I guess, can be quite misogynistic and closed-minded. The way he shuts down people as well, especially when they have something logical, and then he creates this falsely logical um, rebuttal, I guess, that throws people off. But I don't know. First time I ever saw him, I thought honestly he was just playing a persona. I mean, I know he's getting into his whole crap in Romania and whatnot. I don't know what's going on with that. But I, yeah, that's a
Okay.
terrible answer.
Paint me up the picture of a public figure whom you'd find it difficult to affirm. What qualities would they have that make you shake your head and go, this person is
I mean, incompetence, mm, valuing his view over or valuing how people view him over actually getting the job done, not actually doing anything in office, just people pleasing, trying to like looking at it like I need to be reelected for the next term. Like do something that's important. Do something that's going to not just change the current climate, but change the future climate for other. Well,
cool. Okay. Um, so what's your relationship with committing to future engagements? Are you hesitant to do so?
analyzing. What, sorry?
Are you hesitant to do so? And if so, why are you hesitant? Or do you like to plan ahead and know what's coming up on your schedule in a month or two? So you're happy when Judy calls and says, "Don't forget you were going to your aunt's house for Easter."
I have a strong. I've paid attention to it. And what happened is that I feel guilted into saying yes to things, and I realize like an hour or two later I can't commit to that. So then I have to back out of it, and that's something I've been working on, just making sure that I don't say yes to things right away because I can't see like I don't
Is it that
like
you
I'm saying
don't
yeah,
you forget about that you have something else scheduled or what?
essentially yeah.
Okay.
Um, basically I don't and I'm also just more likely to say yes in the moment versus like actually thinking it through.
Okay. Um, so I'm going to just step onto the other side of this wall here. I open the window so I'll still be able to ask you questions. And I'll be going in and smoke a cigarette outside while I continue this conversation. So just give me about 30 seconds to walk outside.
Okay.
Okay. Can you describe for me your sleeping habits? Do you have a regular time you go to bed and get up? Is it haphazard, etc.?
Yeah. I don't plan my sleep. I need to. But I just go to sleep and wake up typically randomly. But I really need to get that down. Like I keep trying to like maybe I try to push it too early. I'll try to set it to like 6. However, that's not sustainable for me. Um,
How many
so
hours
I'll
of sleep do you think you need a night to feel good?
minimum 7. I can definitely live off of 5 or 6, which I do a lot. However, if I get 7 or 8 hours of sleep, maybe 9 hours of sleep, I'll do both throughout the day. It's like
Okay.
I start noticing my reaction time starts slowing down if I get less than 7.
Okay. Are you more likely to get caught in your head, remembering, keeping track of stuff you've got to do during the day, and miss some thing that's happening right in front of you? Or are you more likely to get so caught up in what's happening right now in front of you that you forget about something you had planned for the day?
That's a good question. I know I'm in my head most of the time. I just forget everything. Am I thinking about definitely? I guess the first one for sure. Um, if yeah, I mean,
So
I
what
miss
does
what's
your
going on.
internal dialogue sound like? What kind of things are you talking in your head about?
This is something I've analyzed a lot recently. It's just a constant conversation with somebody, either a somebody I know personally, or like sometimes it's actually you, especially when I was watching all of your typing sessions. I would imagine like going through each question over and over and over again, and then like looking at all the different possibilities, and it's just a constant conversation that's inescapable.
Okay. So since you've learned about cognitive functions, do you find yourself noting instances of when you're using certain cognitive functions
Yep,
or
I've been
okay.
doing it this entire session too.
Okay. Um let's try this. Can you tell me about the last time you went on vacation? What was the best moment of that vacation?
Last time I can think of my best vacation. Last time I've been on vacation, I drove up to New York. The best moment was just driving. I don't. I went to New York with my sister and her friend, and I don't know. It was just super boring, but I was really excited for the drive, and I was just sitting there, and I was just driving in a straight line, and I don't know why, but just like being able to watch YouTube. Don't judge me for watching YouTube while I drive. You're just thinking in general. That's what I like the most. I just like the getaway, just to be sitting down all day. In New York, I don't know, just walking around. I guess it wasn't that bad.
Okay. Um all right, fine. So all right, let's do a couple of things. I'm coming back inside. All right, I'm gonna say a couple of sentences, and I'd like you to try to repeat them back to me verbatim.
Oh boy.
Okay. When apples wear an orange skin, they deceive the noblest men.
When apples wear an orange skin, they deceive the noblest men.
Right. Okay. Now, can you come up with the next couplet to that? For the first stanza of a poem begun with those two lines. When apples wear an orange skin, they deceive the noblest men.
But when they wear a red skin, um,
Thunder just like Indians.
when apples wear red skin, they just when apples wear a red skin, they deceive no one but within. That made no sense, but it sounded great.
Okay. So a rabbi, a priest, and Tarzan walk into a bar. Why?
Rabbi, priest, and Tarzan walk into a bar. Why? Because they weren't paying attention. It was just standing right in the middle of the street, and they just, where they're all on their phones, they started just bang, 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 running into that bar.
I see. Okay. And when they bumped into each other accidentally inside the bar and all dropped their phones and looked at each other, what conversation ensued?
Rabbi, priest, in a bar. Tarzan. Oh shit. Rabbi, priest, and Tarzan. They walk into a bar. Tarzan looks up, and I know the rabbi and the priest look at each other, smile, they grin, and then they just know that they both shouldn't be there. And they grin and they chuckle a little bit, and then they go straight to the bar. They sit down and they both order the same drink and laugh again. Then Tarzan walks up, viewing them from a distance, not really ever seeing these type of people before. And they ask them, "What do you guys do?" The priest says that I work within my church. The rabbi says I work within my temple. And do you need more?
And Tarzan says, "Boy," and he's like, "Oh, can I get a beer?" To the bartender. And the bartender says, "You don't need to holler at me like that." Okay, that's fine. All right, so let me try some TI questions.
Okay.
Can you tell me if my amp is either black or blue, then I will write a note to Sue. But if instead my amp is red, then bury me, for I am dead. Okay. Now, if we additionally know that I write a note to Sue, what, if anything, can we conclude?
Can you repeat that?
If my amp is either black or blue, then I will write a note to Sue. But if instead my amp is red, then bury me, for I am dead.
And then
Additionally, we know that I write a note to Sue. What can we conclude, if anything?
the amp is black and blue. Is that what the first one was?
No, we actually can't conclude that, but it's not the wrongest possible answer, so that's fine. Okay, let's try this. If all pigs eat cheese, and some cheese eaters enjoy college basketball, can we conclude that some pigs must enjoy college basketball?
Yes, some will.
Not necessarily. All the cheese enjoying pigs
All
may be outside the set of the some cheese enjoyers who enjoy college basketball.
that's great. All pigs eat, some pigs enjoy cheese. Okay, yeah, I think you just explained it to me. So.
Okay, let's try another one. If only poets are allowed in this club, and I am allowed in this club, can we conclude that I'm a poet?
Yes.
Okay.
If only, yep.
Can you tell me who my mother's sister's only son's sister is in relationship to me?
Other sisters, only sons, sisters in relationship. My sister?
No, it's my cousin.
I'm getting all these wrong. Fabulous. Oh no, mother, sister. Okay, fabulous.
Right. If my father's mother's husband has only one daughter-in-law, who is that? What is the relationship of that daughter-in-law to me?
Your mom?
Yes, it is my mom. Okay, now let's move on to a different kind of question. So, can you tell me about the kinds of media you consume when you are not consuming media from which you learn anything?
I've been watching Arrow, so probably just adventure, action.
What's
Sometimes
Arrow? What's it about?
DC verse.
Oh, it's that
Um,
cartoon show.
no, it's
No.
like a collection of DC superheroes. I started out maybe 2012, 2013. It's called the Arrowverse because Arrow was the first TV show to come in. It has Supergirl, Flash, all of those. Netflix.
And what streaming? It's a Netflix.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Um, do you have any creative outlets such as painting, dancing, acting, writing, music,
No.
making videos, anything like that?
Nope.
Okay. Um, are you currently in a long-term relationship?
No. Was
All right.
not anymore.
Let's talk about your you've decided at some point in the future you want to get a new significant other and you're shopping around and the salesman says, would you like this significant other who's great but is pretty unfair? Like every time there's 5 pieces, she'll always take 3 of them. You only get 2 of them. Or you got a partner who's very fair but speaks kind of harshly to you. Which one do you want to eliminate from your choices?
Oh, which one I want to eliminate? A.
The one
I
who
mean,
is not fair?
yeah.
Okay.
First, somebody who's just. Yeah, I wouldn't pick either though, but B.
All right. Now you've got to eliminate either the harsh talker or another option, someone who takes a super long time to get anything done. So when you leave the house, they're like, well, just give me a second. I gotta put on my clothes. And it's like 45 minutes later. You're finally ready.
That reminds me of my old relationship. Harsh talker or takes forever to do things. I probably have to eliminate A.
Okay. And what about takes a long time to do things or doesn't respect when you're hungry and need to get something to eat?
I would eliminate.
Just wait till we get there.
I would eliminate B.
Okay.
The new one.
So how about if this next prospective pair, one of them, she's great, but when she tells personal stories about stuff that's happened to her, You think she adds in a lot of bullshit into the story. One option. The other option is she's great and everything, but all of her stories are super boring. It's like, I went to the market and soup was on sale. So I bought 3 cans of soup.
I'd pick A, and I would just laugh.
You would eliminate A or you would keep A?
I would eliminate B.
You eliminate B, okay. So
That's
then
kind of contradictory.
I guess the last one of these is you one of the people is somebody who doesn't seem to be very concerned at all when you hurt yourself or something like that, and or if they said something hurtful to you and you look kind of like, hey, they go like, oh, don't be such a crybaby, you know. So that's one of the people, and the other person is someone who, when you go to a party or something with them, they embarrass you. They like make bad jokes and commit social errors.
That's me. But which one I would choose to be my friend? Or
No, for your significant other.
oh, the second one I'd choose. I would eliminate A.
Okay. Would you be more likely to reject somebody who's too bossy, or too pushovery?
Too bossy or too pushovery? Reject. Too. What do you mean by pushovery?
Like they every time like, oh, I ordered a Big Mac, but they gave me filet fish. You go, well, go
I
tell
can't.
them. They go, no, I can't. I'm so intimidated. And then you have to go do it.
I'm fine with doing that. I'd pick B, so I'd eliminate A.
Okay, so do you consider yourself not have any problems with being assertive?
I guess so. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess I would lean that way for sure. Yeah.
Can you relate an instance where you remember feeling intimidated because either maybe the circumstance was brand new, you didn't know anything about it, or maybe it was a very
Can you repeat that?
dominating personality or something?
Can you repeat that?
Yeah, can you tell me about a time when you felt intimidated?
Oh, I felt intimidated. Felt intimidated. I don't remember any time I felt intimidated. Sorry.
That's totally fine. All right. So you've mentioned that you sometimes get upset at yourself if you feel like you weren't as socially graceful as you would have liked to have been. I've not noted any lack of social grace in you thus far. Do you have to check yourself on that fairly often, or is it infrequent?
I was fairly socially awkward in high school. Yeah, I was terrible. I couldn't. I was essentially a loner all of high school. So it's just very it's developed very quickly in the past year, like specifically the past year, and that's about the same time frame I had my breakup. Um,
You got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one.
Yeah, I don't think it's social grace. I think I just had to pick one or the other. Um, it's just when I stumble or especially when I start like pandering to people. Like I always start thinking, what do people think about me? Like, how do they view me or something like that? And I start stumbling around. If I just don't think about that, if I don't care what you think about me, I'll do fine. I just need to tell myself to shut up.
Okay. Um, I'm going to ask Rachel to come over here and ask you a couple questions about perhaps strategies and or thoughts on friend making, on romance, stuff like that. While I smoke this bit of a cigarette here. Think about what we discussed so far. Did you come and help with this, Rachel?
Yes.
Okay. This beer is cashed, so I'll toss it in the trash.
It's fine. I was gonna get you one, but I assumed you had one. Ooh, that camera is out of focus. Okay, we got it. Hello.
Hi.
Daniel. So okay, I'm gonna ask you about what is it that you look for in a friend? What do you look for, or like think is important in a friend? What's important in a coworker? And then what's important in a romantic partner?
Okay. In a friend, I don't know, just willingness to have fun, I guess. Um, Somebody who doesn't get their feelings hurt very easily. Um, but yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so and then for a coworker?
Coworker, they're so stuck up. Like, I don't know. Like you're afraid to like be yourself around them because like you're like they're gonna like report you or something. That I can't stand. Um,
Okay, so
I mean,
someone who gives you autonomy.
hmm?
So someone who gives you like your space when you're working, like who's not over your shoulder.
Well, I meant. Well, I guess that could have meant micromanaging. Um, I guess so. Sure. Yeah. Also, somebody who can. I don't care if you don't do your work, but if it affects everybody else, then that's a problem. Yeah, that's also a good one.
And then what's good quality in a romantic partner?
Loyalty, mm, stimulation. Like, can hold the conversation. If you can't hold the conversation, then like I don't know. I just can't sit around. I'm just vibe. I guess. Um,
So would you say that someone who has high intellect or who can just carry a conversation like mind to mind, that's important to you?
yeah, very. It gets very boring, and that's the best way I think I can connect in general. It's just having a deep, random conversation about something or another. If I can't do that, I just don't like. I like a lot of like my sister, for instance. She gets upset whenever I try to have a holy conversation with her, and she's my sister, so I can't do much about it. But I need to I need to be with somebody who is yeah, I mean, somebody who can hold a conversation is would rather do that than just sit around doing nothing. I mean, even
Yeah.
like when I'm traveling, for instance, like it's so boring when you're just standing around or sitting around just doing nothing. Like I don't need to go out like partying. I don't need to go see things. Just like walking around and talking for hours is great.
Right.
That's it.
Okay. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you.
Can you tell me about your relationship with goals? Do you have a vision for the future that includes clearly set goals?
Vision for the future that sets clear goals. That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. I'm not too sure what direction I'm going to be taking myself in, which is kind of sad at this point. I don't know. I've tried a couple of things and it didn't really work out. And you know, it's always like that pull to go to school. Like you can go to college and then you'll have a career, and then like I'm like, okay, I'll do it. And then like the last second, no, never mind. And then like it's just this cycle that keeps repeating.
Hmm. Okay. So a similar but different question, which is, what's your relationship with procrastination?
Getting better. I'm learning how to manage it. High school, it was really bad. I would just be doing everything last second. I mean, way past last second. Um, like it's not even like I would just give up on the assignment essentially, and then my teacher be like, "Hey, we can still do it," and then like it's like 2 weeks after the due date, and I'm like, "Okay, I have this one burst of energy. Let's do the assignment, get it done." But I used to be able to get away with it. Teachers liked me. Like I had my chemistry teacher. I did it. It was like this big ass project. I never turned in, and she didn't grade for me for some reason. Um, it's bad.
She
That's a good
probably
answer.
wasn't keeping good track of shit and felt like
That's probably
I,
it.
I might
But
have lost it, so I'm just not gonna say anything, and hopefully he doesn't say
teachers,
anything.
I don't know why,
Just
but teachers will give you that look like it's like we know what you're doing, but I guess like I don't know, like they liked me or something, and they were like letting things slide. It happened with my chemistry and my AP Chem teacher. AP Chem was hard. I like normally I don't have to try. That class I had to try and I didn't. And I barely squeezed a 70 with the extra 10 points, like an 80, um, which was surprising. Um, yeah.
okay. So what was it about chemistry that you think made it more of an academic challenge for you than other subjects?
Well, AP Chem specifically was just difficult. Chemistry, regular chemistry was fine. I think I had a 96 at the end of it. AP Chem, it's just hard. It's probably the hardest AP class, and I did not know that going into it. I shouldn't have taken the class. Um, but science in general, I'm fine with. Bio and chem were great. Physics, I did do poorly in physics. However, I never did bad on the test. I was never turned in any of the assignments because she would like give 3 assignments in a single day. I remember, and I just wouldn't do them. And then they would just pile up. And like when you have a week of 3 assignments a day, you're looking at 21 different assignments per week, and that piles up even farther. So I was never catching back up on that. So if I did poorly in anything, it was just because I didn't do the work. Like history is super easy, just memorization.
Okay, and what about employment work? Have you engaged in any kind of employment work that you found particularly easy or yourself particularly well suited for?
No, I haven't found anything that I'm suited for. I worked as a lifeguard, high school, and my second time.
People die.
Huh?
You let a bunch of people die.
Yeah, that's what happened. I let people die. There's this one little baby. He was swimming. I was like, you can do it. You can do it. You know, it's just like he started going in the water. He's fine. He's fine. And then like there's this cute girl across the pool, and she's damn. And I was like, oh wait, baby's dying, and he's dead.
Yeah, it was too late. Well, who could blame you? There was a cute girl.
That was a while ago. Second year. So I did that 1 year. The second year, I had a friend who snuck some weed in, and I was too goody two shoes back then too. Like I'm like I was scared to get in trouble. My mom was like no joke. Um, but they snuck it in, and one of them reported it. I don't know. Like I wasn't even thinking about it at the time. She's like the girl that was sitting there reported it, and then we got fired. And then I this is starting to get personal. I was 17. No, I was 16, and I found out I was gonna have a kid. So
Uh-huh.
good stuff. Um, so 17 rolls around, and I am at Micro Center. Do you know Micro Center?
Uh-uh.
It's a PC part store. And I was buying something, and they're like, "Yeah, we're have hiring positions." I'm like, "Oh, that's crazy!" And I thought it was gonna be like a Best Buy, like $12 an hour or something, whatever. And I get there, and I'm going through the job interview. I did well, obviously. And he was like, "Okay, we're starting you at $4 an hour." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay, whatever." And I'm like, "I don't know what this is going on." And then it's commission based, and that was my first entry into sales. I didn't even know I was going into sales. I did well at the beginning just because I was learning how to do sales and I was like hyped for it. And then I kind of burnt out maybe 6 months into it. It was good. It was good pay. Um, and so I did sales. I did that for 2 years, a little over 2 years. And then I was with my partner at the time. She was studying for real estate while I was working there, and she started making some good money at that time, really good money. So I was like, I'm making like a third, like a quarter of what she was making, spending all this time. Nobody's at home watching our daughter. So I made the decision. Like I was always on good rapport with them. I made the decision. Hey, I think I'm gonna have to leave. And so I left. I stayed home, and um, then a bunch of stuff happened. Now we're not together anymore. However, I went into car sales. Oh, actually, during that time period, I was doing DoorDash. However, I went and saw this opportunity going to car sales. Don't know why I thought I would be good going into like car sales. I did fine. It just got really boring really quick because the car market kind of crashed. So I was selling one or two cars a week, one or two cars a week, and it was like 50 hours a week. And I made I did the math. It was like $10 an hour. I was like, I can't stay here. I have to like this is it makes no sense. So I left. And I was in good rapport with them as well. And I came back to pick up my last paycheck. No, it was like it was like 3 months, 3 or 4 months later, and I came back to pick up my last paycheck. and and I was like, hey, so how's the market? It was like, oh, it's only getting worse. I was like, good, I got it at a good time. And I've just been doing DoorDash since, and then now I do well, yeah, for work specifically, I just do DoorDash. So I hope that was a good story.
Well, yeah, it was informative actually, but I used to order a lot of DoorDash. But
Yeah,
since I
maybe I delivered to you. Well, you're West Coast.
since I moved up here to Mariposa, we cannot get any DoorDash or any equivalent. None of them bring food to me. None of
If you
them
want to
are
know,
work.
I'll drive all the way across. Where's that? Like Oregon or something? Washington?
No, it's right near
No.
Yosemite in
Where?
California. It's near
Oh,
Yosemite in the heart of California, right in the middle of California.
this public. Okay, but I was gonna go into a tangent about me delivering you food, and then it would be all cold and moldy by the time it gets to you. But that's my
Yeah, and I'd give you a low review.
off the books.
Yeah, brought my phone. I'll call them all day.
Took 3 days.
Okay, cool. So, all right. Let me consult with Rachel for a second. I'm gonna mute myself here. Okay. All right. So here's where I'm at right now. The thing I'm feel very confident about is that you're beta quadrant.
Beta.
Yeah, because everything I'm hearing from you suggests that you're not SI conscious. Now,
Mm,
you might say that that last anecdote runs counter to what my claim there, but here's what makes me think you're not SI conscious.
okay.
Uh, in a number of instances, when I ask you for particulars from your experience, you give me generalities. That's
Okay.
typical NI conscious and SI unconscious. But you've got a lot of fluency in the SI part of it, which would be consistent with 5 or 8. So, uh, I personally, I think you're definitely TIFE and
Yep.
not
I
FE
know
and not
that.
TEFI.
And
So I personally have you narrowed down to either an INFJ or an ESTP.
so that's kind of funny. So I was typed by Amy and Joyce Ming,
Okay.
and both times I was typed in Alpha Quadrant, NESI.
Okay.
It might. I mean, honestly, I know I'm FETI. I remember Amy has these videos where they're comparing all the axes, and I could view myself FETI, no problem. That's the one part where I was struggling because both times I got tested as NESI, and honest, I can see myself being NESI. And coming into this, I think first of all, I did way worse on the TI questions than I should have. It might just be because I'm tired. However, I
I see a third possibility being, despite what I said about your knowledge function being ISFJ. But uh well, let me see if I can hammer this down a little bit better. So
the yes. Well, actually, I'll let you do your thing.
um well, what do you personally believe informs you more as a knowledge function, your intuition slash gut or your experience?
I think I've pondered that question so much that I can't answer it properly. Um, so, oh man, I'm just gonna be relating back to which is experience based. Um, I honestly pondered for a little bit of being an INFJ. I mean, the descriptions matches everybody perfectly though, so it's very difficult.
I
I
mean,
just don't.
it
I,
doesn't match you perfectly. It matches you pretty damn well.
I, the thing is that I can't see myself being an SE dumb. I'm not in the moment ever. And like if I was NISE, SE would be last. I don't.
Right.
It's definitely not child. It's definitely not parent. And if it's maybe I'm so blind to the fact that I'm SE that it's first. However,
Okay,
I
so
mean,
look, I gotta trust your self-reporting here about the SE
man, I
stuff
hate when people
because
trust me. I'm Neville's wrong.
it's consistent with something I noted about your SE when you were self-reporting regarding like I'm gonna do college, no I'm not kind of stuff.
Yeah,
That sounds very fourth slot SE. The
I
thing
was
is
thinking.
I,
Okay.
I suspect you came in thinking it possible that at least that you were an ENTP. I
Yep.
don't think you are one.
Okay.
And so how can I nail down INFJ versus ISFJ?
So
So when you go to sleep, how do you make yourself go to sleep?
How do I make myself go to sleep?
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I don't do anything to make myself go to sleep. Normally my mind is racing all the time anyways. So I just lay there and eventually I fall asleep.
Okay. Um, all right. So do you do a lot of rolling around and trying to get more comfortable in bed?
Only when I'm hot.
How do you feel physically right now?
So fine.
Okay. Can you articulate any recent changes in how you feel physically? Like, well, my back was hurting a couple of days ago, but it's gradually gotten better and now I feel fine. Or something a little further back
The
than
only
that.
thing I can think of, so I do jujitsu a lot. The only thing I can think of is that my spine hurts really bad whenever somebody's on top of me, just because it's so bruised. Right
How would it
now,
get bruised?
you're just rolling around. I mean, imagine like your spine, like the edge of a wheel, and you're just rolling. It's like it's you'll get bruised very quickly. Everything hurts.
Doing what though? I missed the main point here of
Oh,
what you're
oh,
doing.
jujitsu,
With
grappling. It's like,
jujitsu. Okay, gotcha.
which would be a very SE thing to do. Yes, I could see that as being SE done, but yeah,
No, that doesn't make me think you're an SE dome. There's lots of
fine.
people who do jujitsu, and not even a majority of them are SE domes. I'm sure.
Oh, that is a lot of I know I've noticed. Well, I've been able to start noticing SE polar. I can't differentiate between INFP or INTP because they're so similar. However, I've been noticing a lot, like an abnormal amount of SE polar to jiu-jitsu.
Hmm, interesting. Um, okay, so when you go do your jujitsu and you come home and your back's hurting, does that make you not go there for a while until you're well again, or you just play through the pain?
I play. I mean, I, I don't know if it might just be because I'm flexible. Um, however, I don't know. I like compared to other people, I have a much higher pain threshold, but I think that could just be physiological. Um, but
Okay,
I don't do anything for my pain.
when you get up in the morning, do you cycle through what you have scheduled for the day ahead, including things like, well, first I'll get up and I'll go pee, I'll brush my teeth, and then I'll make a quick breakfast. I'm gonna make oatmeal, and then I can't forget I got that appointment with Judy, and then when I have hours of break, and so then I'll come home and I'll do a little laundry. Do you do that kind of stuff at the beginning of the day, or do you just get out of bed and move responsibly through the world according to what observationally is dictated?
B. I don't. I don't. I've considered ISFJ. I don't.
You're not an ISFJ if you do B. ISFJs, all of them, and
I
even
don't.
ENTPs to a certain extent. I get them. I do that shit all the time. When after I schedule this a meeting with you, I said out loud to Rachel probably 3 or 4 times, "I've got that thing at 7. Oh, I got that thing coming up at 7 o'clock."
I
Even
mean,
though
I was excited for this. So I was thinking about it the whole day. But is that different?
that's different. That's
Okay.
different. What I'm talking about is people with SI 1 or 2, especially. They they literally have the internal dialogue that I demonstrated there every day, all day long. And then after
I've
this, I'm
noticed.
gonna go do that. And then after that, I'm gonna do that. And then it'll be around bedtime, and maybe I'll remember for a little bit, and then I'll just have to drive off. So they've got that narrative going constantly. It was a 1-2 SI.
I see that, and I'm always my narrative. Like I don't I don't I don't think I'm. How would SE ignoring? How would SE ignoring manifest? like
Well,
fifth slot.
SE ignoring. Okay, so here's an ISTJ's example of fifth slot SE. It's good to think of it in terms of you countervalue aspects of the world that don't uphold that function as a value. So Cameron doesn't like the idea of people doing workouts in at the gym because they could get the same amount of exercise doing actual work and also get work done.
Okay.
And
Interesting.
SE Dom, like an ISFJ, is going to be very fussy about it if you don't follow through on what you say you're going to do.
Okay.
Whereas an INFJ with NE ignoring, they're going to be very disappointed in you if you have nothing original to say, or if you repeat the same thing over and over again. It keeps telling the same story.
Yeah. I noticed that with my father-in-law, which I never said I was married. Great. He's an ESTP for sure. Well, I'm actually not for sure. I don't know. I think he's an ESTP, and he just says the same thing, like the same story, the same things over and over and over again. And I'm just thinking here we go again. And I don't know. And the originality. I see it. I notice when people are not being very original.
Right. And it bugs you, but you don't want to
No,
reveal
no,
it to
I'm
them
living through it. It's not a big
because you don't
deal.
want to hurt their feelings or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it became kind of like a running joke that he says the same stories over and over, which I
That's
think is very
probably
SI.
an TJ thing. That's probably an
Oh,
ISTJ or
ESTJ.
TJ. Yeah, usually
Interesting.
ESTJs tell the same stories over and over and over again.
Okay, that's interesting. I guess TE demonstrative versus TE dom would be very similar. I think. I
Yeah,
mean, especially when they're
there's
SE.
something to it. I mean, ESTPs get confused for ESTJs in part because both types tend to be dicks, and or both types tend to be a little me focused. You know.
I'm a big dick though. That's why. So, like you're saying, yes, I was thinking I was an ENTP coming into this. Any because I've been typed alpha quadrant twice now. So looking between ESF, ESFJ, ISFJ, and then INTP,
You're definitely not a ESTJ.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I've been typed as an ESFJ before, and I like for a few days I was like, "Am I really an ESFJ?" And I was like, "No." And if I'm within that bracket, I'm an ENTP. There's, I mean, possibly ISFJ. Well, now we got to look at
You're
the T
beta quadra,
demonstrative.
dude. You're beta quadra. You're an INFJ.
Okay,
I feel quite confident about it at this point. The thing
interesting.
is, all of your answers to my SI proddings sound like eighth slot SI.
Oh no, you demon. Okay, that's cool. That's now I'm gonna be well. Now I'm like between three part like because I've been typed as an ENTP, I've been typed as a ESFJ or ISFJ, and I've been now typed as an INFJ. And
Yeah, the difference is I'm me. They're at best pale shadows of me. I know what I'm doing in full. I like Amy's typing strategies because she just does it my way. But
okay,
she's nevertheless not going to be able to differentiate between dominant NE and highly competent fifth slot NE. And I am because I'm an NE Dom. You're
well,
you're on the NE test. Like, look,
it wasn't that good. Yeah, I
priest,
see
a
that.
rabbi, and Tarzan walk into the bar. What happens? Well, if I'm telling the story, there's no way they even get to getting drinks. Some other nonsense goes down, and it's 20. I could just rattle off endless amounts of extended story from nothing for 20 minutes without any problem at all.
basing it on your testing strategies going through your typing videos, I notice I'm not great at inky pinkies. If I need to create a story, I can create a story, no problem.
But yeah, I mean, you can create a story, but it
I'm okay.
follows from what you're given.
Yeah, but yeah,
And
interesting.
inky pinkies are the most robust NE test there is.
Okay,
So, you know,
I can create them, no problem though. That's something I noticed. Creation is easy. It's just guessing them is not the best. And also,
right.
I did way worse on the TI questions than I think I should have. Maybe just because I'm nervous or I'm tired, or maybe my crappy SI was knocking. Because I was. That's the problem with ISFJ. My SI is not good. Based on your test, it's nowhere good. And you did the little 2 sentence thing. Normally when I'm going through your typing sessions, I do terrible on those. Maybe I just did a little extra focusing.
Hmm.
Yeah, the
Well,
TI I did absolutely terrible on, and it might just be because I'm tired and I'm stressed out.
I mean, the thing to remember is this: an INFJ's absolute values are that which is the most determinant factor slash that which is true, and that which is fair or logical. So you made it clear in your general communications that logic is highly valued as an absolute value, not as an instrumental value. And so that means it's 1, 3, 5, or 7. It's not 7 because you're definitely not polar. And I'm quite confident also, though, that you're not a TI Dom. You're obviously not a TE Dom. TE Dom.
Well, that's one thing. Wait, did I do poorly on the TE test? I thought I did okay.
You did fine. I mean, you broke down Washington window into 3 steps, but
I
this is typically the case with people who have TE in the backslide, especially polar, is you didn't answer the question I asked you. I asked you what's the optimal number of steps, and you instead you launched into the steps, and then I said, so how many steps is that? And then you said, well, I could go down to 2 steps. Those things suggest a blind spot, right?
okay. That's okay. I entertained TE because oh man, I have a okay. So before I went to type in for it with Amy, I was thinking INTP, and that was a big blunder because I'm not SE polar. I'm not great with SE, but I'm not SE polar,
You're
and that's
also
how.
not
Yeah,
SI third. It's not an absolute value
yeah,
for you.
and that's one thing. I think I was mistaking myself being in a comfortable position to having the apps like what you just said. So I got typed, and she was thinking ISFJ, and I was like, I don't think I'm TE polar. So then she was thinking ESFJ, and I was like, okay, but I don't think I'm NI polar. And then I think that's where we left off. And then I got typed by Joyce Ming, and going into that, I was for the day right before the day, I was thinking, but maybe I'm not NESI, maybe I am NISE, and if I am, then I'll be looking at INFJ, and I can possibly pull some like circumstances where I completely misunderstood the assignment and did my own little thing, being TI child, and I was like, I don't know if that is. Oh, Ian, you're going. Are you still listening?
No, I'm listening. I'm listening.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't. The thing is, doing an assignment in a way that's your own way of figuring out how to do it, rather than following in some kind of ordinated instructions, that's consistent with TE polar, not TI. And
Mm.
mistaking your polar for something else is also consistent with every polar, right? So
Oh.
whenever anybody's polar is, they tend to mistake instances of it for something else. I'm going back outside to smoke a cigarette. Again, I'll still be able to hear and talk with you.
Okay. And I wasn't sure about FI polar either. I mean, now I'm FI demonstrative. And I knew I was an emotional guy. However, I mean, I don't think, I think ENTP still have feelings too. So I wasn't too sure about that.
Well, it seems pretty clear that you don't consciously value FI, but that's very consistent with INFJ. In a lot of ways, INFJs are the least subjective types. They're less subjective than ENTP because I've got SI conscious and I've got FI as an absolute value, even though it's bipolar. INFJs have FI 6 countervalued and SI 8, which is the most unconscious slot, autopilot, and instrumental in both instances. So it's consistent that all the expression of valuing of logic, fairness, and sort of distancing from the moistness of emotions, that's very consistent with INFJ. INFJs are written about as though they're these emotionally resonant sages or something, but really INFJs don't like people very much.
And that's something I noticed with ENTPs. They tend to be empathic. I don't feel other people's emotions. I feel bad for them, but I wouldn't. I don't know if I got that completely wrong though. Also, what's NI? I must have such a skewed version of what NI is. Like,
okay, well, let me come back inside. And did I smoke a cigarette yet? No, I never lit my cigarette. No.
Yeah, you kind of been in the.
So I have to light the cigarette. But okay, so look, here's an NI test. I'm going to give you a long sentence, and I want you to give me a short and sweet version of it. Okay.
Okay.
So the long sentence is this: if you want to make a difference in a positive way to society, and you like animals a lot, you should consider entering the veterinary sciences, where your job will afford you the chance to help cure and heal animals of different kinds who may be experiencing sicknesses or injuries, and you can make the animals and the people that love them very happy accordingly. Now you give me the short and sweet version of that sentence.
Veterinary science helps animals.
Yeah, that's NI. That's NI right there.
Okay.
That's crystallization of a bunch of bullshit into a communicative, snappy pup.
Interesting. Well, obviously I use ME. I just, interesting. I guess I just don't really know what NI is. I mean, I guess that would make sense because if I'm an NI DOM, I mean, your tool functions, your mail to functions, TIF, FE, or other way around, are typically a lot more clear to you.
Another way of thinking about NI is that instead of moving through the world thinking about what information you've accumulated by your experience thus far and how it's going to inform you about how you move through the day, you're reading the environment real time. So for you, FE tool function means that you're reading other people, and NI means you're grasping what's going on. Like, I can tell this guy didn't like me, or I can tell this guy did like me, or I can tell that guy was irritated when Susie said meow, right?
Okay, yeah.
So being able to knowing that real time that is the case without being able to justify the conclusion, that's NI.
Okay.
It's a holistic truth that is your intuition informs you about, predicated on a bunch of different small pieces of data that may or may not immediately seem to connect to one another. You can't reduce or deconstruct the process by which you came to that conclusion because it's knowing, it's not deciding. So it's instantaneous, and it's instantaneous about your real-time observations going from now into the future. For an SI person, we move through the day trying to keep track of what we have planned for the day by repeating it to ourselves over and over again. It's kind of a primitive way of knowing, it seems like, but for those of us who have a conscious, that we do that. I do it all the time. I'm constantly saying, "Don't forget, Eric, you got this thing at 9:00," or "What was I going to do today? Oh, I wanted to do meow, meow, meow."
What's the typical thought process of a INFJ?
Um,
Or
well,
internal dialogue.
their attention is directed outside of them. So, for example, let's say Rachel experiences a countervalued feeling of unsafeness somehow about our relationship. For who knows what the cue was. Well, she'll go research astrology and shit to find out whether or not we're compatible. She's looking to external sources to find out whether the relationship she is in will work fundamentally because of a inherent matched compatibility, rather than looking to her own experience. Well, are we happy together, and do we fight, or do we get along well, or which would be much more informative in the normal understanding of things about your own relationship, right? But having an NI dominant means, especially with TIFE, you think that pretty much everything is known through its frame level stuff and not through its particulars. I'm coming back inside.
Do its frame level versus its particulars.
Yeah, so in other words, from an INFJ's perspective, if your relationship's not going well, it's because of some mechanical incompatibility, not because of these or those specific circumstances happening right now.
I'm trying to think back. I don't know.
The point is that INFJs are very lacking in subjective epistemology functions, subjective ways of deciding, referencing your own feelings and what's most important to you. You'd rather be the one who's accommodating most of the time. It's easier. You don't really care about the FE stuff because it's instrumental. And since your attention is observing externally rather than internally, it allows you to control your movement through life with surprising ease. It's like you flaked out, didn't do these assignments, the teacher just gave you a good grade anyway.
I guess and I would be a very conscious way of or unconscious way of looking out. It's not. Is it very? As like for instance, is Rachel aware? Is she normally? It doesn't seem like for her that she's more in her head. However, she's aware of her external like surroundings, or is it just autopilot?
Well, she's in her head when she's doing like looking at stuff that she's intuiting about. Like let's say she's looking at her phone right now. She's probably reading something about tarot or astrology or numerology or something like that. In those instances, she's super in her head. And even when she puts the phone down, she may be thinking a lot about what she's recently read. INFJs are not always looking at the external world, meaning they're not on their phone, right? Their phone is the external world too. And they are communicative types, so they like to observe a lot of media.
Okay. I mean, yeah. It's literally me all of high school. I was just sitting on my phone, just absorbing everything, anything I was curious about.
Right.
I don't know if
And
that's
God bless INFJs because they're a type that tends to watch my YouTube channel because they enjoy observing things and knowing what there is to know about it instantaneously rather than learning or memorizing all the specifics of something.
that's something I have noticed in myself. I don't collect data like SI, and that's something I don't take notes. I don't collect I collect, like, I go on Reddit, for instance. I'll ask certain, I mean, honestly, I figured out that it's a terrible idea to go on Reddit because nobody knows what their actual type is. I mean, INFJs being the largest subreddit doesn't make any sense. Um, However, I don't, I ask specific, not specific, I ask questions and I analyze how they responded, but I don't like, I just absorb the information and then I apply it later. So I take that information in, and then if I come across a certain circumstance, like this seems very familiar, I'm like, and it's like I start building this understanding of this idea, but I don't know the framework. And that was the problem with thinking I was an INTP. They're like, oh, I have this internal framework of like this organ, like in an SI, like I have this organ. I don't think like that. It just oh yeah, I guess I
I
just
mean,
know.
Jung thought he was an INTP too. Jung was an INFJ, and he thought he was an INTP. So,
Okay.
thing is, here's part of the reason why is TI is an absolute value for both types.
Yep.
So there's one of the reasons, and INFJs are just as intuitive as INTPs. It's just the other kind of intuition.
Yeah, NE over NI. Well, also, and they're also NI demonstrative as well. How does that play out?
Well, I mean, NI demonstrative in the INTP. That's why INTPs and INFJs ultimately won't make good romantic partners, is because the INTP countervalues the dominant function of the INFJ, and the SI absolute value, selfish absolute value of the INTP will mean they step on the INFJ's SI too much. So INFJs do not like being told when to eat, when to go to bed, when to right? Or how to take care of their own bodily stuff. And if for example, if you grew up in a house where people made you finish everything on your plate, you probably had a very strong reaction against that. Like, I'm full though. I don't want to eat anymore.
I remember. Yeah. Yeah, but I've been in control of when I was really young. My mom used to do that to me. I remember she put a big wad of cottage cheese on the plate, and I hate cottage cheese, and she sat me down. I was sitting there for hours, wouldn't eat it. But I mean, I guess I have a lot of autonomy in my life, really. But yeah, I see the, I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah, people don't like having their eighth slot function stepped on. What I've noted in Rachel is it eighth slot super unconscious, which for SI means like when I would ask her about, well, how does your symptoms of this problem you're experiencing changed recently? What I would mean is, so did it feel differently this morning than it did last night before you went to bed? And she gave me an answer like, well, I remember like 3 days ago I tied my shoes successfully. This is when she's having really bad neuropathy in her fingers. It's not like that anymore, but she's updating her SI database there, not with actual SI experience, but with events that are informative about those. Whereas for me, I'm keeping track of how the neuropathy is every day, multiple times a day, because I got it too on the bottom of my feet. So, this is what happens if you do way too many whippets.
Nice.
So anyway, the point is, SI is A slot super unconscious. Your SI seems very unconscious. I feel pretty confident about INFJ.
Okay. Yeah, now I'm gonna be, no offense, I'm gonna be super confused because I've gotten 3 different typings.
Well, look, that's going to confuse anyone and everyone in typology because there's really only one person who's qualified to type people. Me.
I thought you were about to like say God or something.
No, me. It's
Oh, yeah.
me.
I got it.
So anyway, but yeah, that's my type of view, and I will stop this recording now. Would you like me to share it with you privately, or are you okay with me publishing it?
I'll put it out there. I'm fine with that.
So say again.
You can put it out and publish it.
Okay, cool. So as soon as it's done processing, which sometimes takes several hours, I'll put it up.
Okay.
I'll
I'll
schedule
rewatch
it.
it. No, I won't.
All right, cool. Thanks so much. Have a great evening.
Me too.